Rolling Stone's Dan Epstein called the 1976 original a film that got everything beautifully, hilariously, and even painfully right. Ruth Batchelor of the Los Angeles Free Press found its 1977 sequel to be pure heart-pulling corn. And Seattle Times critic Moira McDonald said that the 2005 remake was extra innings on a game that's already played out. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of the Bad News Bears.
Reboot. Which one will it be, Wolf?
It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. Welcome to Ruined Childhoods, the podcast.
This episode is no longer on deck. It is up to bat.
And hopefully we hit a home run.
Hit it out of the park.
Yeah, an out of the park grand slam home run where we are called safe at the plate.
Yes. And this is the last episode of our Child Star month.
Yes, and what a month it's been. And we, first of all, we got to thank our awesome guests for Child Star Month. Jeff Rubin, who joined us on The Wizard, and check out liesgame.com. So much fun. And Box Brown, who joined us on Heavyweights, and his book Child Star is available everywhere along with his other books, about Tetris, Andre the Giant.
Buy from your local bookseller.
Yes. Support your local bookseller in Seattle here. I'm going to give him a shout out. That's Pegasus.
I got mine
Book
at Powell's
Exchange.
Books.
Nice. Powell's Books is one of the best bookstores that I've ever been to.
It's incredible. And they're actually just starting to open up. Like, they've been doing online orders that you can go pick up.
Right.
And also they deliver, but they just announced that they're opening up 2 of their sections. And the place, if you've never been to Powell's in Portland, the original, they have a few locations, but the actual location, the main is enormous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's enormous.
Sprawling.
So opening up the entire place is insane. It's, I'd say, comparable, if you're a New York listener, comparable to the Strand, but it's a comparable just in the sense that, like, they're both known for being enormous bookstores.
Oh yeah, in the vibe, yes. I was trying to think square footage, having been in both shops. Mm-hmm. Several times, but yeah, Powell's is, if the Strand was able to be bigger than it is in being like in New York City, then it would certainly.
Sure.
But yeah, just such a great collection. I'm sure they have all of his books.
Probably they have an extremely large collection of just every genre. So yeah, it was really cool talking to Box Brown and Jeff, and I think that we could have talked for hours and hours and hours with Jeff about The Wizard and summer camp stuff, because
yes, as The Wizard could have easily been 2.5 hours long. The Wizard episode could have been.
The Sam Sprocket connection, the bicycle safety camp video, blew my mind.
Jeff's been talking about that forever.
So Jeff recently got married, and we did a Zoom bachelor party, which was just hanging out, and we ended up so Jeff and our brother Scott and a bunch of other friends, like, they get together pretty much every Friday night over Zoom, and they like put on a movie at the same time and just like kind of watch a movie. And for his bachelor party, we watched Stay Tuned, which is just like, why the hell not? And at the very end of it, he wanted to watch the bicycle safety camp video. So that's what we did. And then We did not know that when we asked Jeff to be on the Wizard episode. We did not know that the star of that video was in this movie of all movies. This is the one that we had him on. So that's crazy.
And has a small role, but like, as we discussed, is just makes the most of it. Yeah. But oh man, what was that? I'm sorry, you made me think of something. Oh yes. Recently had an experience where Scott was assigned to pick the movie for Friday night movie night and consulted me on it. And we thought because usually I think it's kind of like Roadhouse was, I think, the kind of, that's the type of movie they usually watch. And we talked about, because Scott wanted to do something, a little bit different. He said he was thinking in the direction of Ace Ventura, which my response was, I was like, that seems like something that, most people from that generation would watch Ace Ventura every now and again, despite the problems.
I watched it recently. Yeah.
It's something that that y'all put on, and we laugh at, the same things that, the just wonderful bits that Jim Carrey does in that movie. And then it gets to the, in hindsight, transphobic part of the movie when everyone just goes, But it's interesting because Scott said they were thinking about that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like something I think, most people check out, Ace Ventura is streaming. Why not? I'm going to put that on.
Right.
And I don't think When Nature Calls was in the conversation. I think this was
When Nature Calls is pretty good.
I think I recommended War Games. There was another one. Yeah, I was just kind of like thinking about what was streaming. And I think like they were going to do War Games, and he was like, that's perfect. And there were a few other ones that I threw out there. Oh yeah, maybe that one. They ended up doing Ace Ventura.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was really funny because I checked back in with him. I was like, how did it go with War Games? He was like, yeah, we did Ace Ventura.
It didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It didn't.
So I want to do one more thing while we're on the subject, still a little bit of our Wizard episode. Just like many other things in that last episode, we breezed past so much because we were just talking so much about so many different things. And we were talking about, you had mentioned that you thought that you remembered seeing a small version of Nintendo Power magazine that was given out at screenings of The Wizard. And you were right, there was. So there's YouTube videos of people like flipping through it.
Pocket Power,
right? And there's like interviews with like Fred Savage and, stuff like that. And what's so interesting is that yet still there were no ads for The Wizard in Nintendo Power. So it's like they weren't going to promote the movie, but they were surely going to have the movie promote the magazine.
Them. Yeah. So, we touched on that. But and I looked back and I was like, really? Was there no mention of this movie? And couldn't find a single one.
Yeah, right.
I have one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
It's very brief. I noticed that today, I believe, on Netflix, they debuted a documentary series called High Score, which is about, and I got excited because I was like, oh, is this going to be a series about like video game competitions? And it's not. It's about the history of the classic video games and kind of like the 80s, that breakthrough era in video games, and how did Nintendo get involved? I haven't watched any of the episodes yet, but I read the episode descriptions and it looks really interesting. So anyone who's kind of craving more video game centric material.
Yeah, I think that the nostalgia doc is like a huge genre like the past 5 years.
Yeah, I like the focus of this one where it's not just like, here's a bunch of toys you used to love. Like there's a lot of the Netflix ones about what I think there's one specifically about toys, and the graphic is like the Hulk Hogan action figure. And I don't watch that. I watched all those VH1 series where they were like, the 80s and wacky wall walkers.
Michael Ian Black pops up and Doug Benson's there. Chris
Jericho. All of them. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out there because that I think just dropped today.
I have a way back one more thing from an episode from a while ago, because I got some new information, Dan, about our Flatliners episode, because I talked to our mutual friend who we mentioned on the episode, Joe Labratio. And for anybody who doesn't remember or hasn't listened to our Flatliners episode, we know this guy, Joe Labratio, great dude. He was in maybe your graduating class in high school.
He graduated the year after me, but we did a lot of theater together.
You were close in high school. And then when I lived in Los Angeles, I was in touch with him and we met up a few times because he is in the entertainment industry. And I happened to, I sent him a Facebook message years ago about something completely random. He responded to me like 4 days ago. He was like, oh my God, I never saw this. I never look at Facebook. So I just hadn't seen this. And we started chatting and he was like, so what have you been up to? And I mentioned that you and I were doing this podcast. And I was like, it's so funny because your name just came up a bunch of times because in Flatliners, for anybody who doesn't know, there's a character named Joe and a character named Dave Labratio. Dave Labratio?
Yeah. Yeah. David Labratio, that's Kevin Bacon's character.
It's Kevin Bacon's character. So it was tough for us I was telling him like it was funny for us because we kept on slipping on the name because of him. Here's some interesting information that he just gave me. Joe Labratio's cousin went to school with Peter Filardi, the writer of Flatliners, and named the character for Joe Labratio's cousin. Your jaw is
way.
Because
I've known Joe Labratio for about as long as I've known the movie Flatliners.
Yeah.
And wow. Okay. I mean, it never came up.
Right. Well, he responded and he was like, oh my God, of course I'm familiar with this whole situation. Because we even commented on how like he must have been very aware of this because when that movie came out, everyone was aware of it. And if somebody has your, let's say, uncommon last name in a movie and Kevin Bacon's character is your name, essentially, then you might find out about it. So
nothing like when Welcome to the Dollhouse came out and the main character was Dawn Wiener.
Yeah. Can't imagine that was fun.
Well, and I always wondered because movie. Todd Solondz was from Livingston, where we have family. And
we're going to talk about Livingston in a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, we are. But anyway, that said, do we have anything else? Do you have anything else that you want to bring up before we talk about?
The only thing I want to bring up is the beer I'm drinking in honor of Morris Buttermaker.
Well, I will then bring to my lips.
Bringing it up to my lips.
The glass. It feels so good. I don't have a beer because the gout, but my Jameson whiskey, which may or may not be any better or worse than the beer. But.
Yeah, right. So we are talking about the Bad News Bears on this episode. It was came out in 1976. We're about the first one. The first one came out in 1976, directed by Michael Ritchie, whose name came up for me right before we decided to do this episode because I just on a whim decided to watch The Candidate, which he also directed, which came out a few years before this. It was starring Robert Redford about a guy who the Democratic Party wanted to run for, I believe, Senate with the idea that he would lose. And it's just about his whole candidacy.
Mr. Jarman says that he's taking his case to the public. Well, then why does he refuse to meet me in open debate? We have to fast track things that people put everybody on welfare.
I'm sorry, I'll have it fixed in a second.
Anyway, it's a great movie.
I've never seen it.
It's a really, really good movie. I liked it a lot.
It's high
streaming on one of the platforms right now.
I believe HBO Max it is streaming on.
Sounds about right.
Because I was looking into some Michael Ritchie movies. I'd watched a little bit of Downhill Racer, which was his first movie with Robert Redford and Gene Hackman. And in looking at Michael Ritchie's filmography, you really do see, and he's got movies like Fletch, The Golden Child,
right, The Golden
Survivors, Couch Trip, and a lot of sports movies that he directed Cool Runnings.
Oh, did he?
Next team up is Jamaica.
All right, fellas, that's us. Let's go. Here we go. Today's our day. This is it. Come on, guys, we can do it. The race. See you at the finish line.
With the kinds of push
All right,
starts
it's all
these
yours.
guys are
Let's go.
capable of, we might actually see the Jamaicans win an Olympic medal. So this is it. We could see history in the making.
Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme. Get on up. It's bobsled time.
He directed Cool Runnings. He directed
a
movie that I have a lot of love for, even though I am disgusted by James Woods, so it's hard to watch it. Diggstown.
Oh, Diggstown, yeah.
Also co-starring the great Oliver Platt, Bruce Dern, Louis Gossett Jr. And maybe that's one for us to talk about another time.
Sure.
But, Michael Ritchie did Wildcats, where Goldie Hawn coached a high school with Woody the first Woody and Wesley pairing, Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson.
Oh, was that their first?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything before that. Yeah. But yeah, so Michael Ritchie has had like a, kind of a storied career with a lot of variety, but it seems like he really just kind of has a knack for the sports movies.
Well, if you want to talk about variety, we should talk about Bill Lancaster, son of Burt Lancaster, who wrote this movie and directed pretty much just this and The Thing.
Well, or wrote. Yeah, he wrote.
Oh, sorry, wrote. Yeah. Just this and The Thing. But like, I think he did one of the sequels, or was it just Characters By? I don't remember.
I do think he wrote the script for Bad News Bears Go to Japan.
Okay.
But if the name sounds familiar, he is the son of Burt Lancaster, who was the inspiration for Morris Buttermaker.
Right. Well, I mean, this Bad News Bears was very much inspired by Bill Lancaster's childhood. I think that he was more of the Toby character, a dud baseball player, and I don't know the full story, but
we'll get into the synopsis because that's going into the kind of the plot. But just before we get into the, actually no, I want to save that for something I was going to bring up, but I want to wait until after
there are
the
so
synopsis.
Many interesting things to bring up about this movie and the people involved.
But before you go into the synopsis, I just want to say that, and I've seen this movie before, but never really watched it the way I watched it recently.
Mm-hmm. And it's homework.
I have to, but I don't focus on homework even that much. But I did extra credit, so watching a sequel. But this screenplay, for a screenwriter who pretty much wrote two movies, both of them excellent, but
The Thing, which I just watched the other night for the first time.
I haven't seen it in a long time. At least the first time that I remember.
Yeah, and I watched that before we decided on Bad News Bears. So it was funny that like these two movies that I happen to watch, it might have been 2 nights in a row, and then Bad News Bears is, Bill Lancaster, Michael Ritchie.
But man, what a script
it's really great. It's really great. So great, they kind of Xeroxed it and did it again. That some of the pages got a little smudgy.
Yeah. We'll
get into that.
We'll get into
Here
that,
is a synopsis for 1976's Bad News Bears. Bob Whitewood is a SoCal attorney and city councilman. He's also the father of shitty Little League baseball scrap Toby. When Toby and a bunch of other kids don't make a Little League team, Councilman Whitewood sues the league and they agree to form one extra team in order to accommodate the leftovers. You know what that means for the league? That means bad news for the league. Bob hires former baseball player and current pool cleaner / alcoholic Morris Buttermaker to coach and manage the team, titularly called the Bears. Though he doesn't take coaching seriously at first, things change after the Bears face a major humiliation against league hotshots, the Yankees, coached by Roy Turner, whose competitiveness is only rivaled by his hot-headedness. While Buttermaker attempts to help the boys improve their game, he seeks the assistance of 11-year-old Amanda, the daughter of an old flame who has an arm of gold. After some bargaining, Amanda agrees to join the Bears, greatly improving their chances of winning, or at least not losing. During one practice, a foul ball is recovered by a scrappy little motorcycle riding punk named Kelly Leak, and his ability to throw the ball across the field directly into Amanda's glove, gets Buttermaker's attention, and he does what he can to get Kelly to join the team. The group of outsiders, now complete, gets actually good, and they make it to the championships. Against, the Yankees, of course. This could mean bad news for the Bears. By this point, all Buttermaker wants is for them to win, and he abuses Kelly's skills and Amanda's sore arm to the point that the kids are feeling pretty sour. But things change once the Yankees pitcher, / Roy's son, Joey, decides to defy his dad's orders to intentionally walk players. When Joey throws a pitch that hits a batter, Roy loses his damn mind and verbally and physically abuses Joey. This means bad news for Roy. In retaliation, Joey throws a game-changing pitch and then walks off the field and away from the game with his hot mom. Buttermaker realizes that he hasn't been a good coach and proceeds to favor the scrappiest kids in the team so that everyone can have fun. The Bears end up losing by a hair, but celebrate a fun season with beers. When the Yankees try to apologize for being rude the entire season, the Bears tell them to shove it. And what does that mean for the Yankees? Dan?
Bad news for the Yankees.
That means bad news for the Yankees.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to run through some cast highlights. So, Walter Matthau brilliantly plays Buttermaker. So good. He's so good. I love it. Vic Morrow plays Roy Turner. Dan, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how he died?
I sure do. Yeah. Vic Morrow, for those not familiar, was filming Twilight Zone, the movie, in which he played a racist who, after a terrible person. Yes.
Just the character.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Plays a racist who is out drinking and just making all these racial comments, really offensive, steps out of the bar and finds that he has stepped out of the bar onto a street in Nazi era Germany or a Nazi occupied territory. I forget if it's specified, and that he's Jewish. He's wearing a yellow star. Mm-hmm. And then he's pursued by Nazis and then wakes up, I want to say, as he's in Vietnam, I think, but
yes, right. Which is where the tragedy.
It was a helicopter crash that
he was decapitated by a helicopter rotor. When I just happened to glance upon that, my jaw dropped the same way that yours did when I dropped that Joe Labratio knowledge on you.
And I'm sorry, in the synopsis, did you say that he loses his head when Joey hits the batter?
He loses his damn mind, which I didn't know at the time. Oh, no.
I was like, wait a second.
I wrote
Did
that
he
synopsis.
reference that?
I wrote the synopsis before I knew that information. That is terrible. Apologies to the Morrow family for that, because I'm sure totally good dude just played really rude people.
In these two movies,
things. Yeah.
I feel that I can't think of anything else that I've seen Vic Morrow in, but he's very effective.
Yeah, Vic Morrow was in, let's see. Yeah, Magnum P.I., Humanoids from the Deep with Roger Corman, The Last Shark, The California Kid.
Oh, he's in 1990, The Bronx Warriors, which I've never seen.
Yeah. Anyway, pour one out, Vic Morrow.
Yeah.
This is so I'm going to mention a character who otherwise would not be worth mentioning, but the league manager, Cleveland, is this woman, and she's played by Joyce Van Patten. Do you know who her brother is?
Dick Van Patten.
Of course.
Yes.
Yep. So
part of the wonderful Van Patten, and isn't there a son? There's
I believe another one. Yeah.
The Van Pattens are a formidable acting family.
Yeah. So playing Amanda is Tatum O'Neal, who is fantastic in this. I mean,
she already had an Academy Award.
The ladies nominated for Best Performance in a Supporting Role are Linda Blair for The Exorcist,
Candy Clark for American Graffiti,
Madeline Kahn for Paper Moon,
Tatum O'Neal for Paper Moon,
Sylvia Sidney for Summer Wishes, Winter Dreams. The winner is
Tatum O'Neal.
All I really want to thank is my director, Peter Bogdanovich, and my father. Thank you.
She already had an Academy Award. So for Paper Moon, which she was in with her father, Ryan O'Neal. Yeah. And, didn't do a whole lot more. She did some guest appearances, mostly.
She ran into
she had a small run.
Yeah, and I think she had some. I want to say I think she had some substance abuse issues.
Right. So she was arrested in 2008 for buying crack in New York. Cops allegedly found 2 bags of drugs, one of crack, one of powder cocaine, and an unused crack pipe. So was charged with misdemeanor criminal possession of a controlled substance. Wrote a biography in 2004 called A Paper Life. So in that, she also talks about how when, other tragedies, I don't want to get into too much of it, but other personal tragedies. So
yeah, we don't need to.
Yeah, absolutely. So fantastic in Bad News Bears. I heard that she did not have the greatest time making the movie just because it was kind of like a bunch of tween boys just wanting to hang out with each other and not wanting to hang out with a girl, which too bad, but just goes to show you how good the acting is by all these kids, because it seems like they were a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
So Chris Barnes plays Tanner, who is the most foul-mouthed of the little kids, who, he did Bad News Bears in Breaking Training, did a few TV things, but aside from that, really nothing else. And this kid really stole the show a lot of times.
He knocks it out of the park.
But he's like one of the scrappiest kids in the team, but the most short-tempered and just wild kids.
Goldberg, now get the ball.
Why you always picking on me? What did I do to you? Ichabod Crate, you caught me belly aching and thrown the ball to first base.
Well, he fights the entire 7th grade at their school.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So he greatly resembles one of my daughter's friends. And whenever I see him, I just think of Bad News Bears. I told his dad that recently. I was like, did you know that your kid looks like every kid on the Bad News Bears?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 of them that kind of have that similar, Toby,
blonde, yeah.
Jimmy. Is Jimmy in?
You might be right. There's one that has that. Yeah, Jimmy Feldman. Played by Brett Marks.
Brett Marks, yeah. The great grandson of which Marx brother? Zeppo Marx.
So Marx is the grandson of Gummo Marx and great nephew of Groucho, Harpo, Chico, and Zeppo, of course. And yeah, so
there's a joke about it in Breaking Training.
Oh, is there really?
It's like the team that they're playing is this kid looks like one of the Marx brothers.
Oh, geez. So we, of course, also have to talk about Jackie Earle Haley, who plays Kelly Leak. And Jackie Earle Haley, during this time, was certainly in, he was in Breaking Away. And then he went on to do the other 2 Bad News Bears movies. And then took quite some time off and I think directed commercials until coming back into the scene to be he was in All the King's Men in the same year that he was also in Little Children, right?
Yeah,
which he was nominated for the Oscar for, and it was a big deal that he was returning to acting, which was kind of cool. You don't see a lot of people getting fanfare for just kind of coming back out of nowhere.
No, it was a pretty big story.
Yeah.
Well, because wasn't he, I think for a while, I think he was just kind of living like he had a normal, day job that was not in the arts.
He moved to San Antonio, and then Sean Penn asked him to come be in All the King's Men. And at that same time, he also did Little Children, for which he was nominated for the Oscar, which I think that's a great movie, great book as well.
Oh yeah,
heartbreaking story, and he plays just like such a tragic character.
Of lonely women here, and only a handful of men. The odds are on our side. Why wouldn't one of these women want to meet a nice person like you?
You're not a nice person.
You did a bad thing. But that doesn't mean you're a bad person.
I have a psychosexual disorder.
You better now. They wouldn't have let you out if you weren't.
They let me out because they had to.
Well, maybe if you found a girlfriend closer to your own age, you wouldn't have the bad urges so often.
I don't want a girlfriend my own age, Mommy. I wish I did.
If anybody hasn't seen or read Little Children, you should check it out.
It's a pretty powerful story.
Yeah. So yeah, Jackie Earle Haley, and then later on, he was in the Watchmen movie and was the new Freddy Krueger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, he was Rorschach. He was a pretty good choice as Rorschach for the Watchmen film.
Yeah, he was great. So he plays Kelly Leak, who's just so good. He's so good at just like. He's so convincing at just like that little shit who like all the people in the town who like want it to be like a nice, clean community. Like he's the kid who's going to ruin it for them.
Yeah, he rides around on his moped and smokes cigarettes. Mm-hmm. He hustles the adults at air hockey.
Hey, punk. I thought I told you to quit hanging around.
Catfish. What a great arm. Who is that kid, anyway?
Of course he's got a great arm, Buttermaker. He's the best athlete in the area. But you don't understand. That's Kelly Leak. You guys talking about Kelly Leak?
Yeah.
That dude is a bad mother. He's talking about a loan shark. I borrowed a nickel from him last week. He said if I didn't give him a dime by Friday, he'd break my arm.
Es un bandido. I don't know what he's talking about, but I like him. He's got balls. Why screw around, you guys? If the guy can play ball, he can play ball. I mean, let's get him on the team.
Want to go again? Anybody else?
Saw you throw the ball the other day. Got a great arm.
So.
We could use a good outfielder on our team.
Oh, you call what you got a team?
What you got against baseball anyway?
Well, the baseball you guys play is for faggots and old farts who don't have anything better to do with themselves.
Well, you must like those kind of guys. You sure do hang out on the field often enough.
There's nice ass at the field. That's why I hang around.
I hear you like to gamble.
We go $1 a game here.
I don't want to play for money. If I win, you play baseball for the Bears.
And if I win?
Name it.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I was trying to think between that and I think the remake. It is like video games or
he's skateboarding.
Skateboarding, yeah.
Well, at least that's how Amanda coaxes him into. Well, her attempt to coax him into joining the Bears.
Yeah, but I love that she's disappointed because he's dragging her to go see the Rolling Stones.
I know.
In 1976.
Yeah, can you imagine?
It's like, I'll go.
So, I don't know if there's really anybody else in the cast who you want to call out particularly.
I mean, all the kids are great. It's worth noting that the actor who played Engelberg in the original film, and that
Gary Lee Cavagnaro.
Yeah, Gary Lee Cavagnaro played Engelberg, and then between filming Bad News Bears and Breaking Training, he slimmed out. He got tall. Slimmed out, and they had to recast the role.
He Paul Feiged. That's just a heavyweights.
Yeah. Yeah.
They recast him for the other ones. Interesting.
They recast him for the other ones, and the other Engelberg is fine, but like he lacks. Like Engelberg is almost like the other Tanner. He's always pissed off, and it's so funny.
Well, I think that also this movie feels like, as much as it is an underdog story, it feels like an underdog movie. Like the movie itself has just like a grit to it. It doesn't seem like it's likely to succeed.
Well, it was a surprise hit. Mm-hmm. It's worth noting that it comes out, I think, at least 6 months before another very similarly themed, similarly plotted movie that goes on to win Best Picture, Rocky.
Oh, yeah.
Right down to the ending.
Yeah.
Right down to the ending where the hero doesn't get the literal win, they get the figurative win. It follows a very similar storyline where, you know, he's up against, it's, you know, guy from nobody who's boxing in underground clubs in Philly, and he's going to take on the heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
And so it's so similar that you have these two, and it's so funny, you have these two movies coming out in the same year, which is really just one of my favorite movie years.
Oh, yeah.
Just because other favorites of mine like Network and All the President's Men and Taxi Driver are all that year. And Bad News Bears and Rocky are on that list. I want to point out the observation that I made that so much of this movie, it feels less of the 70s and more of now. The whole plot is kicked off by this. Well, because what's more now than
a Karen,
or Kevin or whatever the male version is in the remake, it's Marcia Gay Harden.
Right.
But you've got a lawsuit against the league because they won't put the crappy kids on the teams. And so this guy, you know, Bob Whitewood, sues the league and then gets the kid, you know, it's the, you know, getting them the participation trophy or whatever.
Sure.
And then you also have it where they're not like, these are the outcasts. These are the kids who get bullied. Even Tanner, who it's the only kid Tanner bullies is Lupus because he's they're all at the bottom. These are all these kids at the bottom of the pile. Yeah. They're scrapping to just be the one at the top of the bottom group. And so much of it. And I think that a lot of other Michael Ritchie movies, especially his sports movies, have this in common where they not only have that external, like that challenge of, all right, well, we're going to beat the Yankees. The Yankees are the bad guys in this. But we also have to get over ourselves. We have to get past ourselves.
Yeah.
And you put this collection of kids together, and it really is about inclusion and what happens when you're like, hey, we're a lot more powerful. It's like, look, and we might be, and Tanner spells it out in that famous line from the movie that then gets carbon copied in Breaking Training, where he drops a bunch of slurs. And I think it's what a lot of people associate this movie with. But first of all, like Tanner goes off at everybody.
Yeah.
And also the movie is not about the divisions. It's about what brings them together and what unites them. Because it's Buttermaker, who's an alcoholic, who, you know, you don't see him in the movie without a drink. I don't think.
Yeah.
Not even when you start to like him more.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Amanda, who doesn't really fit in with the, like, you know, girly girls, but is trying to.
Right.
She wants to fit into that group and read Cosmo and all that.
And take ballet.
Take ballet. Right. But, you know, this, like, you see, like, she's really herself when she's on the mound. To Kelly, who's really trying to be this rebel and this, I don't need anybody. He ends up becoming a happier person once he joins and it brings me back to like Monster Squad and like Rudy joining the Monster Squad.
Totally. Yeah.
Darren in Explorers.
The Freaks.
And I did have while we're talking about Kelly, I had a question that came up while I was watching the original, and then it is kind of like the sequel, like Breaking Training kind of put the kibosh on that question, but there seems to be such a tension between Roy Turner and Kelly Leak.
Mm-hmm.
And Roy Turner's
illegitimate father, you think?
Well, Turner's such a douche that I was like, could totally buy it if like, because Kelly's a little bit older than his kid. So like, yeah, what if Roy Turner either had it, like maybe had impregnated Kelly's mother before he got married or whatever, and then in Breaking Training, you learn that Kelly's father is Mike Leake, who works at a factory in Texas and is played by William Devane.
Hi, I'm William Devane.
William Devane.
Let them play. He leads a chant in the Astrodome. It's magnificent.
Let them play. 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 Let them play.
William Devane is great in 24.
Yes.
He's the Secretary of State or something like that? Secretary of Defense?
In one
Secretary
season,
of Defense makes sense.
I think in one season he's the secretary, either a Secretary of State or Defense, and then I want to say he's the president in another season. I don't care what you have to do. I want to see Jack Bauer. Love William Devane and his enunciation.
For me, it's all about just him saying his own name.
Jack Devane.
William Devane.
When our country used to flex its muscle with battleships like the USS Iowa, the world would listen. It's time we return to the America I remember. Hi, I'm William Devane. There are dangerous forces everywhere pulling our country apart, threatening our economy and our way of life. That's why I'm going to do two things: support our military and buy gold from Roslyn Capital.
Anyway,
sorry, that's a Breaking Training tangent. But if you take Bad News Bears just on its own,
right?
I would love to. It's a question I would have for Bill Lancaster: Is there a relationship with Roy Turner and Kelly Leak?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Because but also Roy Turner has like when he hits Joey for almost hitting
Joey, but it's also
super
like powerful.
And it's on the one hand, it's almost like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, all of a sudden you're that dedicated to playing clean, but yet you get it. You also are not surprised. Mm-hmm. I wasn't surprised.
Well, it's not that I'd seen it before, but it's not like I wasn't surprised. I was just kind of shocked just to see the way that, because the movie does just like have this very realistic feel to it, to see that happen with like no score under it or something. It just feels like you're in that moment with them. And to see the reactions from people. I'm pretty sure that Buttermaker, does a tear come out of his eye? I can't remember. It certainly seems like it.
The tear comes out of his eye after he has the fight with Amanda.
Right.
That was when another incredibly effective moment. But while we're talking about those moments, it's worth shouting out the both the editor on the film and the cinematographer, because those moments during the baseball games when they are when it gets into that more, I don't want to say documentary, but it's that like handheld camera that makes you feel like you're on,
sure.
Like
also,
you're there
on the
field.
note of the cinematography, the like first shot in the movie is actually pretty beautiful, kind of incredible. Like it kind of is this swooping shot from like a field that kind of goes down to like Buttermaker's car, and it's, I don't know, it was a shot that I noticed, and it's like I'm not always just like noticing shots, and I don't know if it's because it's an unexpected type of thing in a movie like Bad News Bears.
So, and we shouldn't be surprised because John Alonzo, who's the cinematographer on this, and I thought I had some notes here on the other movies he did, but his other credits, and this is why it's like, how is this movie an underdog? He was also the cinematographer on Chinatown.
Ah, well, there you go.
And The Magnificent Seven, and, know, so you've got some like top-notch talent. Oh, and the editor is Richard A. Harris, who, among other things, like off the top of my head, I could tell you he cut Terminator 2 because I've seen that movie so many times. And nice. True Lies and Titanic. So like you've got a top-notch crew here working on this film. But and just a few more things about the screenplay is all the different storylines that you can follow throughout this movie that are tracked so well. And this is, by the way, also into the editing, because they don't say it, but like you follow the progress of Tanner working as a shortstop and being able to stop the ball. And it's something that like Buttermaker works on him with in one scene, but then you just see it in the games where it's he misses it and then it's he stops it but he doesn't catch it, and then he catches it but doesn't quite make you see this great progression. And the storyline with Joey Turner, with his son, the interactions that his son with Roy Turner and his son Joey, that Joey has with like Tanner and Lupus, where you see him bullying. And that's why it doesn't come out of nowhere when Roy finally, like when Roy hits him. Yeah. But you see that and you see him kind of like, all right, attaboy, Joey. All right. Yeah. Attaboy, Joey. Do it.
And only because it makes sense to bring it up now. And I don't think it would later, but in the 2005 remake, one of the things that I think it fails at is capturing those moments, because you don't get a scene with the son. I don't know, remember if his name is Joey in that. Probably, I think all the names are the same. But with Joey bullying Lupus.
I want to come back to the remake because
we will.
Yeah. But just some other great. So you think about the storyline. So there's Buttermaker just in his own redemption. Yeah, John?
Right. Well, I also just want to talk about Ahmad.
That was where I was going.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah. So Ahmad Abdul Rahim, who's played by Aaron Blunt, who is he the only black kid on the team?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who idolizes Hank Aaron and has these, like, I think older brothers who have been like great, like, athletes or whatever. And when he's not good, he feels embarrassed and he's not worthy of even wearing the uniform. Quite literally, he strips it off and climbs a tree. And the moment that Buttermaker has with him is really beautiful, where, you know, he bullshits the story about Hank Aaron not being good, you know, at Little League. He
does it so well.
He does it so well. And it shows, I think that's probably even like the first glimpse of humanity for Buttermaker, you know, because that's right after the first game, I think. And yeah, he says whatever he has to say in a very convincing way to just like make Ahmad feel like part of the team and feel like he could be a good ball player.
And the way that Lancaster handles the issue of race, which he does in a way that he addresses it, but doesn't dwell on it and doesn't make it. It's in that scene in the tree when Ahmad makes a comment about honky bullshit. He refers to Buttermaker's honky bullshit, and Buttermaker just says, let's not bring race into this. We've got enough problems as it is. And aside from a couple of other things, like Ahmad, you know, maybe say, I think he says later when they're playing against the Yankees, like, this is for Allah and it's going way out there, sucker, which that's a religion, not race. But there's not to their credit, like, they don't, it's not like they're really racist. Like in breaking training, you know, there's still like a tiny drop in there, but in breaking training, what I noticed was really just that they use the word faggot liberally in that movie. Well, they go to Texas and like they're playing these like this Texas team, and so they throw that around a lot. But going back to Ahmad, I thought that moment was beautiful. And it's one of many moments that Buttermaker has one-on-one with the kids that is just so touching. Yeah. And shows that this guy might be an alcoholic pool cleaner. Right. But he cares. He gets invested. He's not invested at first.
Right. For him, it's all just about getting paid.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Where's my check, Whitewood? Love the Chico's bail bonds. And I love that it's just a visual joke. No one says anything. It's there and it's a visual, and that makes it work so well.
You know, and I wonder if the bail bonds sponsorship in Major League 2 is in some way a nod to this, which it's funny because Major League is the only other baseball movie we've talked about on the show, I think.
And or at least it's quite similar.
Yeah, sure. Underdog story. And yeah, so the bail bonds thing is a presence in both of them.
Yeah, it's great. And what is it? I just have a note written down and I forget. I didn't write down who says this line I think Buttermaker says it. I forget who he says.
Now
get back into the stands before I shave half your mustache and shove it up your left nostril. I love
it's
the
such
specificity
a Walter
of that.
Matthau line. Like there's something very Matthau about it.
There is.
It's like, I'm pretty sure he says that in Grumpy Old Men too. Like I could just hear him saying it like in every movie he's in.
Well, Grumpy Old Men 2 has the connection to Catfish Hunter. He talks about Catfish Hunter in this, and then
that's true.
Catfish Hunter is the legendary fish that they're trying to catch.
Right. That's true.
I believe in the second. So I could go on and on about how much I love the original and just how much more.
It's really a nice movie. It's really a nice movie, and I think that a lot of people look at it as something that's, I don't know, stuck in time with some of the language, especially that Tanner uses, but it's like you have to watch it with an understanding of like really what's going on. And it's a classic. It's truly one of the greats.
I would suggest it actually does hold up better. And even though, yes, you have to look at it that, yes, this movie was made then, so that's how the producers were allowed to get away with it. But tell me there aren't places in this country where you'd have a kid saying exactly what Tanner said.
Totally. So
in 2020.
Do you want to talk about the sequels or should we jump to the remake?
Yeah, so let's just maybe breeze through the sequels.
I haven't seen them.
Okay, so these are the ones that I remember seeing a lot on TV growing up. I remember like turning on HBO in the middle of the afternoon and okay, all right, Bad News Bears and Breaking Training, sure, why not? Bad News Bears go to Japan, okay, whatever. Which cranky old man is with them now? Which is kind of an odd format for a film, but. So I watched Bad News Bears in Breaking Training. I remembered Bad News Bears Go to Japan pretty much just being a rinse and repeat where like Tony Curtis is, and they reference the Japan trip in Breaking Training at the beginning and at the end. Well, the whole idea is, so by the time they do Bad News Bears and Breaking Training, which was released a year after the original Bad News Bears.
They came out pretty much like 3 in a row.
76, 77, 78. It was, hey, these kids can miss a couple of years of school and like, let's make some movies. Right. So Breaking Training is where they are all of a sudden, they have gone from being the first runners up, the second place team in wherever they are in California, to being all of a sudden at the beginning of Breaking Training, they are the standing California champs. And yes. And they know there's one mention of Buttermaker in it. And it's pretty much just when they're waiting for their new coach and someone goes, "Oh, it's not Buttermaker, is it?" To which I was like, that's an odd reaction. And they end up like with this new coach who Kelly like basically fires. Kelly fires their new coach.
Okay.
And then Kelly has also like decided not to play. Oh, also the music in this. We didn't even talk about the music for the original, which is they use Bizet's Carmen, the opera Carmen.
Oh, yeah.
For the music, which is so wonderful.
Brilliant.
The juxtaposition. The sequel uses the Battle of 1812 overture. Every time I go to hum it, I come back to the original to Carmen, but there is also like a 70s like pop version of the overture, the Battle of 1812 overture, that is that's like it's in the movie, and it's it goes da na 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 da da. That's the song we're talking about, and there's like sometimes when you don't know you have to choose. If you don't want to win, you're gonna lose. We're gonna go where it's like it's weird. Oh, yeah. And by the way, the new coach that they get is totally racist. He asks Ahmad if he could just call him like Bob or something like that because he can't like say his name.
That's lazy.
Oh, it's all. So the sequel. And then like Kelly brings in, because they don't have a pitcher anymore. No explanation. Buttermaker's gone. Okay. Amanda is gone. So Kelly brings in his friend who has moved from back east, Carmen Ronzani, who's played by Jimmy Baio, cousin of Scott Baio, and also a cousin of whichever member of Vampire Weekend's last name is Baio. I forgot his first name.
Oh, there's a Baio in Vampire Weekend?
Who is related to RNC speaker Scott Baio and
you can
Jimmy
just
Baio.
Hear my eyes rolling. I don't know if I heard that.
Yeah. So Jimmy Baio comes in as Carmen Ronzoni from back east. Yeah, he's basically
from back east.
He's basically like a 14-year-old Joe Pesci, and he's talking about how he's a great pitcher and all that. Of course, it turns out he can't pitch for shit. He's actually, I wrote down, he's the original Wild Thing.
Oh,
because like the first time he actually throws a pitch, he just throws it all the way out there. And yeah, so they're going on this trip to Houston because the California champs are going to play the Texas champs, and the winners go to Japan. So continuity.
Gotcha.
Now, in order to be able to convince the parents, because every now and again, the screenwriters in this series are like, oh yeah, these kids probably have parents who somewhat give a shit about what happens to them. To appease the parents, they hire the groundskeeper at the field who I don't know what is, he seems to have some type of mental disability, but they teach him to say, hello, how are you? So that he can stand in front of a house where all the parents drop the kids off. The kids all get into a van and leave without the groundskeeper, pretty much in plain sight of the parents. Like they leave at the same time as the parents and they all get into the van together while this guy is just standing on the front lawn, saying nice to meet you. And it's not nice.
Yikes.
So they end up going down to and Kelly, by the way, Kelly has decided to join them, as we learn, because his father lives in Texas.
Ah.
Yes. Gotcha. So that's the aforementioned Mike Leake, as played by John
William Devane.
I know you enjoy doing that.
I do.
Recognize that swing? No turn, over the top, weight on the back foot. Now that spells disaster. Hi, I'm William Devane, and that was a disaster, but not half as bad as the market crash of 2008. The government bailed out the banks, but who bailed us out? I didn't get any money. Did anyone replace what you lost in your retirement? Lesson learned. Protect yourself now and transfer your existing IRAs to a Roslyn Capital Gold and Silver IRA.
So Kelly goes to the factory to look him up. Oh, and by the way, this happens after the Bears get not arrested, but police officer Lane Smith, who you would recognize from My Cousin Vinny.
Okay.
As the prosecutor, is just like they go into a hotel and they park their van in a no parking zone, and instead of towing the van, they're like, who's with that van out there? And the woman who runs the hotel is like, I don't know, a bunch of midgets.
Oh boy.
And yeah. Well, I think she calls one of the kids a honky at one point. So that's problematic. But then they get to, so they finally are able to get there, but because they are late for the first practice, the coach of the other team has decided to call a different team from El Paso to come. Now, the Bears show up at the practice field and see that there's another team already there. And the person who has arranged all this, who is an Anheuser-Busch rep named Cy Orlansky.
Oh, boy.
Cy Orlansky, played by Clifton James, then finds out, he's like, oh, wait a second, those aren't the Bears that are out there on the field. And he fixes everything. And the Bears are going to play because Devane sweet talks him. And Devane's just like, hey, if you don't have any tickets for the game, I'll make sure you get some. Just get me Jack Bauer. So they end up playing, but then they're supposed to play 4 innings in between a doubleheader at the Astrodome.
Okay.
And they start playing, and they start playing, and the game's going, and then an official comes out and is like, we have to call the game for time. We need to move on. And the kids are all upset because they were just kind of starting to do well. Like they were really shitting the bed for the first inning. And then they were kind of starting to get it together. And then they call the game, and the Astros start filing into the dugout where the kids are, and Tanner's like, can you believe this crud? They won't let us play. And one of the Astros is like, hey man, let the kids play. And next thing you know, William Devane is out on the field trying to lead a chant of let them play. And eventually everyone in the dome chants let them play. And then you have all the other kids are off the field except for Tanner. Tanner's like, no, screw this. And he just throws his glove down, like sits on the field. And a couple of officials go out there and they're trying to capture Tanner, but he's running around and it's this whole like comedy sketch going on and everyone's loving it. And then next thing you know, they let him play and the Bears win. I have one question. Because they use a trick in the Bears use a little trick in this. And I feel like I've seen this in a baseball movie before. Okay. I can't remember the baseball movie, but they do this trick where so the coach goes out and they have a, meeting on the dugout, and it's the first baseman, the pitcher, the catcher. And he tells the pitcher, Carmen, who by now has learned how to pitch, tells him, he's like, all right, you got to make it look like you're holding the ball, but the first baseman, Toby's going to have the ball instead.
Rookie of the year.
And when this guy goes, it is, okay, it's rookie of the year. Thank you.
Henry Rowan Gardner. Funky butt loving.
Butt loving. Did he say funky butt loving?
Oh, right. After he loses the ability.
His arm is healed.
Yes.
He slips on the ball and it snaps back into place or whatever. And yeah.
So that was first done in Bad News Bears. Breaking Training.
Wow. Gotcha.
So that was Breaking Training. It takes a lot of the feeling out. And something that Michael Ritchie had said about the sequels was that his movie was intended to kind of satirize the way that adults exploit their kids.
Yeah.
For their own purposes. And that these other movies really didn't have that. And it was really just about a team that is able to get really, really good by the end of the season and then sucks all over again at the beginning.
Somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's the inconsistent coaches and the lack of parental guidance.
It must be. So let's talk about the 2005 remake. There are so many reasons why it should have been good. And by that, I mean, the cast is kind of great for the most part. The adults in the cast are perfectly cast. Yep. Billy Bob Thornton, that was in the era where it was like, hey, let's get Billy Bob Thornton with a kid and we'll make him like curse and drink and stuff.
I mean, this was a year after Bad Santa?
Yeah, it was like right in that same era.
Yeah.
I think there were some other ones where it was like Billy Bob Thornton. Well, there was also movies like Woodcock and School for Scoundrels, where it was, this type of persona that Billy Bob Thornton was just like kind of doing over and over again.
Yeah.
And then it's directed by Richard Linklater, which I don't know if it's the right choice. He's so good at so many.
John, I have a theory.
What's your theory?
Didn't Boyhood
start shooting around this time?
I have a feeling that the Bad News Bears paycheck was used to partially
the
fund
paycheck
Boyhood.
Or just like they wanted him to direct it and he's like, I will direct this if you let me do this crazy 12-year project.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the same thought too, because I mean, I love Boyhood, and in a lot of ways this, Boyhood would tie in to the spirit of Bad News Bears so much better than the actual remake of Bad News Bears.
True.
Yeah.
Wow. Really good point.
So anyway, clearly it was just like a, hey, let's just get this thing done with type of situation. You have Greg Kinnear playing the Vic Morrow, Roy Turner part. And honestly, perfect for that role. He's perfect for that role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just like the probably former jock father who's, just like the his dream was to coach a little league team, that kind of person.
Well,
and
his
as you
dream
said,
was
Marcia
probably,
Gay Harden.
I wonder, something I wonder about Roy Turner is if it was his ambition to play, to play professional baseball, and the fact that like Buttermaker kind of did.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, so that's kind of what I feel is going on. But you're saying, yeah, Marcia Gay Harden.
Marcia Gay Harden's perfect for the
She's
Karen
great.
role. Well, whatever the name was, but the mom who just is so annoying to the point that they're just like, fine, we'll make another team. Oh my God.
Yeah, and then gender flipping that role really added a dimension.
Right. And I think, like I was saying earlier, it's pretty much like there's so much of it that's like the same exact script, like beat for beat, except you're missing those key elements. What are you making that face for?
No, keep going what you're saying, because
it's missing the key elements of like where the heart comes in. But you have like, the scene where they're sitting around a pool and Lupus is making him a drink, which makes no sense because he's not a pool cleaner in this one. He's a rat catcher or whatever.
Yeah, he's an exterminator.
He's an exterminator. So it's like that scene doesn't really make that much sense.
Well, and I think in general, what was kept from the original was like the stereotypes, whereas the original, it was more about about slurs being used, but that the words really didn't mean as much, like, that they came together. And I think that this one kind of, it just tried to update the stereotypes, like having, like Troy Gentile of the Goldbergs, who plays, the character
Hopper. One of
Hopper.
Hopper.
Yeah, but he's in a wheelchair, as he makes a point of. He's very funny in that.
He's very funny. I got to give him credit. He's like when he calls him out like in the last game. Yeah, when he calls him out in the last game, and he's like, "All right, you're out in the right field or whatever," and he's like, "You serious? Hello." Like, I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah. No, I thought I would, despite the fact that I found the script actually like kind of offensive.
Yeah.
In parts.
Well,
I thought the performances were fine.
It's just like they updated it to remove a lot of the slurs, but like you were saying with that character, but also it's like I'm pretty sure they still dropped a lot of homophobic slurs because in 2005 that was still okay, I guess.
Well. Yeah. There were a few things about it that didn't make sense. I felt also that this was really, that it was trying to kind of capitalize on School of Rock, the popularity of School of Rock, which came out a couple of years earlier. Yes. Oh, it's wonderful.
But also like
fantastic. But also that like it's trying to kind of give you the original. Like they even have like the hip hop remixed Carmen beats in there.
Yeah.
Like record scratch. I can't do a good one, but but you've got some really great moments in it. Like I love the part when Kelly shows up to take his part on the team by claiming the jockstrap and cup, which I think he kind of does in the original, but it's much funnier.
Yeah. I don't remember the kid's name who plays Kelly in this, but it's like he doesn't have what Jackie Earle Haley had.
Oh,
like,
no,
not at all.
No.
He's kind of dull. So Sammy Kane Kraft, who plays Amanda, I feel like she, did an adequate job given what she was handed. Yeah, I think also, so Sammy Kane Kraft, aside from doing, this Bad News Bears remake, was also like a young musician and things like that, but unfortunately died in a car accident. Very young. It's a very sad story. And so...
And she's a native of Livingston, New Jersey.
Right. That is where that comes up. She is originally from Livingston, New Jersey, which is right near where we are from.
Yeah, so we'll pour one out for Sammy Kane Kraft.
Pour one out for Sammy Kane Kraft. No kidding. So, and it's just like she, like I said, with what she was given, she did a completely fine job, but
she was a less typical, like if you think of a early teen star, like kind of like you were saying, the Kelly Leak kid who's kind of a little cookie cutter.
Yeah.
I thought she stood out a little bit more. And I thought, like you said, she did a good job with what she had.
And when I was editing the last episode and I was chatting back and forth with Dan about what song to put at the end of the episode, I was considering putting the Phantom Planet song California for The Wizard, which if you've seen The Wizard or heard the episode, you know it's a very appropriate song. And I let Dan know that the Phantom Planet was going to come up in this episode because Phantom Planet minus Jason Schwartzman and I think one of the guitar players, Jacques, were the skate band that plays. So rather than going to see the Rolling Stones, Kelly wins his bet and gets the date with Amanda to take her to see this skate band, and that's I forget what they were called in the movie, but it was the guys from Phantom Planet. So
yeah, I don't remember. Doesn't Buttermaker go with them?
He does. I don't remember why that's relevant at all. Because
I guess he doesn't want her going alone.
I don't know. He ends up in a mosh pit.
He does. Yeah. By the way, Billy Bob Thornton in this movie reminds me of another actor who I know you and I both have an appreciation for.
William Devane.
What? How can you mumble that name? How can you mumble William? You got it, William Devane. You have to pronounce it. Damn it.
Sorry, go on. Michael Shannon. Who are you talking about?
No, Timothy Olyphant. I was watching it and I was just thinking of like Timothy Olyphant, like in Deadwood, and just like that, like, you know, smug look.
He's great.
Yeah. Not necessarily. We'll get into like, you know, whatever recasting later, but yeah. So I was thinking about Timothy Olyphant, but we talked about the Roy Turner outburst and how, whereas feels very sudden in the original, it makes sense. Like you said before, it's not built up to.
Right. Well, also it's kind of like when Greg Kinnear does it, it's like, okay, now here's the part where he hits the kid, but then he doesn't hit the kid. He just shoves him. And it's like, you know, it's like you're waiting for it to happen. And then it's like, I don't know.
Well, also when it happens, I think the circumstances are slightly different because I think in the original, in the remake, Roy tells Joey to walk Engelberg, to throw an intentional walk.
Right.
I don't remember if that was the setup, but so Joey technically listens to his father because he tells him to walk Engelberg, and he does walk Engelberg by hitting him.
Yeah.
So it's much more out of nowhere, and he doesn't hit him. Not that I think he needs to, but it just wasn't like, if they were going to it was like the writers of the remake decided that they had to have certain sequences.
Yeah.
Like Lupus mixing the drink for Buttermaker, but didn't notice. That's why I wanted to point out the nuances in Lancaster's script and how smoothly it follows all those different storylines. Even like Engelberg's eating, like when he eats the paper off the candy bar. They were like, we need to keep the set pieces, but they didn't put them together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, and actually I wonder if another aspect of it is that, you know, the remake was done in 2005. The original was done in 1976. In 1976, the MPAA had a very different system for, you know, the ratings for the movies. So the 2005 remake was PG-13, and the original was probably PG.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So
well, otherwise it would have been R or G.
Yeah, it would have been R.
Jaws was rated PG.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if like they couldn't do as much, because if they did more, then it would be an R rating. And then that was.
What do you mean? Like in terms of of Roy hitting Joey?
I don't know. Yeah. Not hitting Joey.
Because that wouldn't have made a difference, especially if it was built. I just think it was perhaps something that was rushed, and something that where the focus was more on appealing to the fans and giving the fans what they want to see, rather than telling the story. Now, did you watch do you have anything else that you want to say about the remake? Because I wanted to jump back.
Yeah, nothing more I really wanted to say about the remake, aside from the fact that it's just like, I know that we talk a lot on this podcast about how, okay, that remake does not erase the original one. So it's like, fine. Should it have been remade? I don't think so. Because I think that one of the things that made Bad News Bears special was the fact that it just kind of was its own precious thing. You know, it was like, it had this grit to it. It was made in this time when it really needed to be made. I mean, like you said, same year as Rocky, and I don't know, like, it just made sense to be in that time. Whereas to do it in like 2005 or even now, it's like underdog stories have been done to death. And that's one of like the real original like kid underdog sports stories.
That also perhaps one of the original slobs versus snobs type stories.
Yeah.
I kind of made that association as well, but I did want to,
which comes back again in heavyweights.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very, very similar. But to your point, though, I wanted to cite the review in Rolling Stone by Dan Epstein, where he says that the 2005 remake with Billy Bob Thornton is a perfect object lesson in why great films shouldn't be subjected to remakes. That said, like back to your point, it depends on the film. Mm-hmm. And I think that there are a lot of great movies that you can do loose remakes of, loose, interpretations, inspired by, I'm not talking about Blazing Samurai, but, there are other movies where really like close remake can be very good. And then there's others that like, yeah, maybe probably shouldn't be touched. And I think, coming back to it, it's kind of like, well, Bad News Bears didn't need a remake because it had tons of remakes, from Mighty Ducks to the aforementioned everything we've talked about, Dodgeball. I mean, you keep going. So it's almost like those are the remakes. It's Speed was Die Hard on a bus. Mighty Ducks is, Bad News Bears on ice.
Yeah.
Which Bad News Bears on ice would be an excellent way of reviving the property without doing something.
Yeah, just put ice on the field.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Except I don't know when the next time is we'll be able to have ice shows. So that's not the first thing on the top of the list that I'm like lamenting. So anyway,
Dan,
where are we going?
What would you do?
All right. For all the reasons we've just said, first of all, I don't think I would touch this. I don't think I would advise anything else be done, but just kind of trying to find a few, just something. What about an animated remake where they're actually bears? And I was like, if there was going to be a remake, and it's too bad, like, because you could do a remake. You could. If the 2005 remake hadn't happened, I totally think that the right writers and director could put together a sensible remake. Now, as I was watching these things, there were two actors that came to mind that I said, I would like to see them play Morris Buttermaker, because really that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, was like the remake was, Billy Bob Thornton is Morris Buttermaker. Everyone's going to want to see that. But so if we were going the more traditional route, I think Ed O'Neill would be a wonderful Buttermaker. But if I had to make a remake, if it was, like gun to my head, you need to make a remake and you need to to come up with a cast, I would cast Samuel L. Jackson as Buttermaker.
Oh, interesting.
And it would be wonderful.
Well, I love my Samuel L. Jackson. So
who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah. I think that'd be fun to watch. For me, the only thing that I could really think of that I would want to see happen would be a Buttermaker prequel. So a story about Buttermaker in the minors, because I don't remember, did he actually play in the majors?
No.
Yeah, he never actually played in the majors. So
But he struck out Ted Williams.
Almost did.
He struck out Ted Williams in like an exhibition, like a spring training game.
Yeah, I think he did it. Right. He did an exhibition game. I think he pitched 2 pitches.
Yeah, I could see his backstory. I'm picturing Jimmy Dugan, Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own.
Yeah, right. Oh,
he's kind of a similar Buttermaker, but yeah, Buttermaker backstory would be.
And in the role of Buttermaker, I think I'd put Mark Ruffalo.
I would love to see Mark Ruffalo do something fun. Yeah. Not that Mark Ruffalo doesn't do fun movies, the Avengers, but I would love to see him do something like this. Right.
I mean, he did like 13 going on 30. He did
Just Like Heaven.
Right. He did some stuff like early on, and then Dark Waters. Not comedy at all.
No,
very, very not funny.
Did the HBO series that also looked pretty dramatic.
Oh yeah.
We should not forget to mention that there was a short-lived Bad News Bears TV series, which co-starred the child star nexus of Corey Feldman.
Oh my God, that guy! He does it all. He does it all.
He's everywhere.
So how long did that show last?
2 seasons. I remember watching growing up. I want to say like on Nickelodeon. I think they ran it. They ran it in syndication.
Okay.
I couldn't find it anywhere to watch. I was looking for it. Unless I did a very poor job looking.
So there was the Bad News Bears TV series, 1979 to 1980. Yeah, Corey Feldman. Yep. Yeah, so Jack Warden as Morris Buttermaker.
Jack Warden was the first Buttermaker that I knew, that I was familiar with.
Interesting. And he's great. I like him.
Yeah, because I watched the show. I think I saw the show before I ever saw maybe any of the movies.
So the storyline is to avoid a year in jail, swimming pool cleaner Morris Buttermaker agrees to coach a Little League baseball team called the Bears. Unfortunately, the Bears are the worst team in the league, boasting a roster of the most inept and least disciplined players in school. Buttermaker, with the help of Principal Rappant, eventually wins the respect of the Bears, and they even win a few games along the way. That's just a user-submitted synopsis on IMDb. So, yeah.
A little closer to the Mighty Ducks premise.
Right, which is exactly how he ends up coaching the Ducks.
I would say Mighty Ducks is probably the closest thing to a...
Yeah, and Mighty Ducks is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mighty Ducks is fantastic. But even in Mighty Ducks, doesn't he brings in... Is there a girl... The girl's already on the team?
There is a girl on the team. He doesn't just know a young girl the way that Buttermaker knew Amanda.
Well, because I guess he was dating his mother. And by the way, that's another big difference between the original and the remake, just to jump back for a moment, is in the original, he mentions Amanda pretty early on. Because he's telling a story. I think they cut into a scene and Engelberg is like, I can't believe you taught a girl to throw a pitch or whatever like that. And so he talks about her early on, whereas in the remake, I didn't catch that. And I think there's less buildup in the remake that would make Amanda think that her mother would want to see Buttermaker again.
Yeah.
Because there's that whole thing that comes up. And I think in the original, there's a lot more Buttermaker talking about the good time. They talk about the good times that they had and all that. And it's a much more meaningful relationship in the original.
We don't have to convince anybody that the original is better than the remake for Bad News Bears.
Yes, so just in case anyone was wondering where we stand on this, despite our respect and admiration for Richard Linklater, and by the way, if he did this movie so that he could make Boyhood,
then great. Glad it's there.
Good job, Richard Linklater. You made the right decision. So that's that. I think that's what we've got on the Bad News Bears.
That's what we've got on the Bad News Bears.
John, anything else you want to throw in there? Any other pitches you want to...
You know what? Not
got
really.
Any curveballs?
I enjoyed, watching the original, and I don't know, the remake had its moments, but
the original is worth taking, especially if it's one that you might dismiss because of that kind of stigma of it being stuck in the 70s in a lot of ways. I would suggest looking at it again, giving it a second look, because this movie is really much more about inclusion and teamwork than a lot of other sports movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Dan, at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about Ace Ventura and how that one has an ending that is pretty cringeworthy nowadays. Why don't you talk about the movie we're going to discuss in the next episode, which has a very similar thing going on?
Yes. So we're entering September. We all need a laugh. So we're going to talk about some comedies, and we are going to kick it off with another Slobs versus Snobs classic, 1984's Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, looking forward to revisiting that one. It's been a while.
Another Anthony Edwards joint.
Wonderful. Well, no, there's that cast has a lot of standouts.
Curtis Armstrong.
So wonderful.
We'll talk about it on the next
of course
episode.
We will. Until then, I bid you a good journey.
Good journey.